It's something you probably don't think about much, but have you ever stopped to consider how where you keep your money might actually be playing a role in your overall financial well-being?
Mm.
It might sound a little unconventional, I guess, but on this deep dive, we're going to explore this surprising connection, the link between like the physical spaces where you store your savings and your financial prosperity.
Yeah.
And we're going to be looking at some interesting perspectives on this, drawing from ideas shared in the Texto Colado source, which touches on the concept of the energy of money and how our environment influences it.
That's right. The Texto Colado source offers a really fascinating way of looking at our finances, suggesting that there's, well, maybe more to it than just numbers in an account. It delves into how our immediate surroundings might be impacting our financial flow in a way.
So for this deep dive, you, our listener, our mission is really to help you understand how making seemingly small adjustments to your habits, particularly concerning where you keep your money, could potentially lead to a greater sense of financial peace and, well, maybe even abundance.
Right.
We're not talking about needing like a vault or anything drastic,
Okay.
but about those subtle shifts in your daily routines.
Absolutely. And the core idea that emerges from the Buddhist perspective in our source is that everything, money included, can be viewed as having a kind of energy.
Okay.
Now, this isn't about some, mystical force necessarily, but more about the mental and emotional associations we build around money and how our environment impacts our mindset.
Right.
A cluttered space, for example, might create feelings of stress and a lack of control, which could subconsciously influence our financial decisions.
Okay, let's dig a little deeper into this energy idea then. The source uses a really vivid analogy, comparing money to a river. What's the significance of that image?
Well, what's insightful here, I think, is the idea that money, similar to a river, needs a clear and unobstructed path to bring abundance, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
If there are blockages or areas where the water becomes stagnant, the flow is hindered, right?
Yeah.
The Texto Colado source suggests that our approach to storing money and the environments we choose can either, facilitate this flow or inadvertently create obstacles.
So according to this perspective, the actual environment where we keep our cash can have an effect on its ability to circulate and grow in our lives. It's a different way of thinking about it for many of us, I imagine.
It is, yeah. And the Texto Colado source offers some pretty compelling stories that really bring this idea to life. Let's start by looking at the experience of Salka.
Yes, Selka. The source describes her as very diligent and responsible, yet she consistently struggled with financial scarcity despite her hard work. What was her particular habit when it came to her money?
Salka had developed the habit of keeping her money tucked away under her mattress, believing it to be the most secure place. You hear about that sometimes.
Sure, yeah.
However, from the Buddhist viewpoint presented in the source, this practice carries a different connotation. She sought advice from a wise Buddhist nun who pointed out that the space beneath a mattress is fundamentally associated with rest, stillness, and immobility.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me. So the nun's reasoning was that by placing money in a location so strongly tied to inactivity, the money itself could become, in a sense, stuck or dormant. Is that the idea?
Precisely. That's exactly the interpretation. The nun suggested to Salka that she clean the area under her mattress thoroughly and then find a more open and well-lit location to store her savings.
And after Salka made this seemingly minor change, what kind of impact did it have? Was it like a sudden windfall? Did she win the lottery?
No.
Yeah.
The source is careful to note that it wasn't an instant, dramatic transformation.
Yeah.
However, Salka did begin to experience small but steady improvements in her financial situation. She also reported feeling a greater sense of calm and well-being around her finances. And interestingly, new opportunities started to present themselves.
Huh.
It really highlights how even subtle shifts in our environment and habits can lead to noticeable changes over time.
That's a powerful illustration. It wasn't about some magic wand, but a gradual shift in energy, perhaps, and the opening up of possibilities.
Exactly.
Now, the source also discusses the practice of keeping money in kitchen drawers. What's the thinking behind that being potentially problematic?
Well, the kitchen is often seen as a hub of transformation, right?
Yeah.
A place where raw ingredients are converted into nourishment and sustenance.
Makes sense.
However, the challenge with kitchen drawers, as the source points out, is that they often tend to accumulate clutter and become quite disorganized, filled with all sorts of unrelated items.
Yes, the classic junk drawer. Oh, I think many of us can relate to that one. So how does this state of disarray connect with the energy of money?
The idea here is that a disorganized environment can impede the smooth flow of positive energy, so to speak. If the space where you keep your money is chaotic and filled with items that no longer serve a purpose, old bills, whatever,
Yeah.
it can metaphorically block the natural movement and potential growth of your finances.
And we have another story here, right? Tenzin's story, who actually intentionally started keeping money in his kitchen, believing it would attract abundance because, the kitchen's associated with nourishment. What happened in his case?
Oh, yeah, Tenzin's intention was positive, sure, but he didn't take into account the actual condition of the drawer he chose.
Ah,
When he sought guidance from a wise monk, the monk identified the lack of organization, the clutter, as the key obstacle hindering his financial progress.
okay.
The advice given to Tenzin was pretty similar to Salka's. Find a location that was more organized, clean, and perhaps more intentionally designated for his savings.
So it's not just about the specific room itself, but really about the energy of the particular space and its condition. That makes intuitive sense, actually.
Right.
Now let's talk about the bathroom. According to the source, this is a particularly unfavorable location for keeping money. Why is that?
Yes, the bathroom. Well, it's primarily associated with cleansing and the elimination of waste, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Symbolically, placing money in this environment can be seen as mirroring that process, the potential draining away or loss of wealth.
Oh, that's a rather direct and sobering analogy. And the source also brings up the point about running water in the bathroom being a potential issue.
Yeah, the interpretation there is that the constant flow of water can be seen as metaphorically carrying away the positive energy associated with money, sort of further reinforcing the symbolism of depletion or loss.
Wow. And we have Loden's story, who, similar to Salka, kept his money in a bathroom drawer, believing it to be a secure and private spot. What insight did he gain?
Well, a wise monk explained to Loden that the very essence of the bathroom, its symbolic connection to release and letting go, makes it an unsupportive environment for accumulating and nurturing wealth. And just like with Salka and Tenzin, when Loden shifted where he kept his money, he apparently experienced a positive change in his financial circumstances.
So, okay, we have these three specific examples highlighted by the Textocolado source: under the mattress, cluttered kitchen drawers, and the bathroom, all presented as less than ideal places to store our money from this perspective on energy and environment. What are some of the more beneficial practices the source suggests for cultivating abundance?
Yeah, so beyond just the physical location, the Textocolado source emphasizes several key principles. The first one, and it comes up repeatedly, is the importance of cleanliness and organization,
Okay.
as we've discussed with the examples, right? A clean and well-ordered environment is seen as essential for energy to circulate freely and positively. And this applies not only to the specific place where you keep your money, but also to the surrounding areas.
Mm-hmm.
Clearing out old and unnecessary items is seen as creating space for positive energy to enter and flow.
That resonates. I mean, clutter can often feel mentally and emotionally draining anyway, so it's not surprising that it might have broader effects, potentially even on our financial outlook.
Exactly.
What other practices does the source emphasize?
Gratitude and intention are also highlighted as really powerful forces.
Mm-hmm.
Cultivating a sense of gratitude for the money you already have can fundamentally shift your perspective and improve your relationship with it.
Yeah.
It's about focusing on appreciation rather than lack,
Mm-hmm.
and setting a clear intention to attract greater abundance is like giving that river of money we talked about a definite direction to flow towards.
I can see how that makes sense. A positive and appreciative mindset probably makes us more receptive to opportunities and more mindful in how we manage our resources anyway.
That seems to be the idea, yeah.
And the final practice mentioned is visualization. How does that fit into this framework?
Visualization involves mentally picturing yourself living in a state of abundance and prosperity. The source suggests actively imagining how you would utilize wealth to enhance your life and, importantly, the lives of those around you.
Okay.
This practice helps to create a positive emotional connection with wealth and can serve as a powerful motivator for taking concrete steps towards your financial goals. It sort of aligns your mindset with your aspirations.
So to kind of bring it all together, the key takeaways from this deep dive into the Texto Colado source are that how we interact with our money and the environments we choose to store it in can potentially significantly influence our financial well-being.
Precisely. The underlying principle drawing from this Buddhist perspective is that money, like everything else, carries an energy, or perhaps better put, is associated with certain energies that are influenced by our actions, our mindset, and the spaces we inhabit.
Yeah. And what's really encouraging, I think, is that these aren't about making radical, overwhelming changes. The stories of Salka, Tenzin, and Lodin really illustrate how making thoughtful, small adjustments to our daily habits can indeed lead to noticeable shifts in our ability to attract and maintain abundance.
Exactly. It's about fostering a more harmonious relationship with money by being mindful of its perceived energy in the spaces where we entrust it. It's about intentionality.
So, as you're listening right now, you maybe take a moment to consider the spaces in your own home where you keep or handle your financial documents, perhaps even just loose change in a jar. What kind of energy do those spaces hold for you?
Yeah.
Are they areas that feel cluttered and overlooked, or are they clean, organized, and perhaps even intentionally chosen?
Good question.
And what small shift could you consider making, maybe drawing inspiration from these Buddhist principles we've discussed, to potentially foster a greater sense of financial well-being and open yourself up to new opportunities in your life?
hmm
It certainly gives you something to think about, doesn't it?